I bought the cheapest 250 dirt bike from walmart.com, and not only was it surprisingly good, but it came with blinkers, a headlight, everything it seemed like I needed to make it road legal. So now that I know that this bike does pretty good off-road, it is time to see if I can make it completely legal to take on the street, because I'm super curious how this thing could work as a commuter, and I really like the idea of summiting the mountains in the area after work without having to load the bike up in my truck. And first step is, unfortunately, call the DMV. All right, I have my paperwork that came with the bike, and that is a bill of sale that has the price and my address. And I have this manufacturer certificate that does look like it's hand signed. So I'm gonna call the DMV, see if that's all I need to make this thing road legal. Dang, that is some jazz. I could sample that. Do I need anything else to register it?
We probably want to see it. Without looking at the paperwork, I can't say for certain if we do or not, but I'm guessing we would probably want an inspection done on it.
Okay. It all sounded really promising, but we won't know for sure until they actually look at the bike and the paperwork. So we loaded it up for what is hopefully its last time before having its own plates. Holy smokes. She just came out, checked the VIN. I gave her $98.88, and that is my registration sticker. I have a temporary plate. Now I just need to gas up, go to the driver's license place, get my bike permit or whatever, get some insurance, and we are about to hit the street in this thing. But I'm going to get cash back on my fuel because I am using Upside. All we have to do is log in, see where the deals are around us, and we've got some cash back at the 76, so we're gonna head there now. Upside could not be easier. All I need to do is put my card like I normally would, fill up with fuel, go back into the app and click redeem rewards, and that's it. Upside is completely free to use, and it's not just gas stations, it's grocery stores, restaurants, and top Upside earners are making as much as $300 a month. To find out how you could earn, click the link in my description and download Upside. Use code EDWIN to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas, or scan this QR code. It's free, it'll save you money, and it supports my channel, so go ahead and give that a download, and then let's take this bike on the street. All right, it is freezing cold here, but I got myself some heated gloves and the cheapest bike from Walmart. What could go wrong? There we are. My first time using a blinker on a motorcycle, and my first time riding a motorcycle on the street legally, which is pretty funny because I've been on public roads since I was 5. I'm always so nervous when I see white Suburbans normally because I think it's a police officer. But today, even if it was, I'd be fine. I'm still looking for a good microphone solution to put in my helmet. My first impressions just going straight and slow was that it feels really good. So I'm gonna head up this road, get into some curvies, and most importantly, see how fast the top speed is and if it feels wobbly or if the brakes feel insufficient at top speed. Because ultimately that is going to be the biggest downfall as far as using this bike as a commuter, if it shakes at high speed. First negative thing that I noticed is the rear shock is pretty dang stiff for road use. And this bike already has a lot of its weight on the front tire because the engine is just so far forward on this thing. So if you hit a big pothole or something, I'm 180 pounds and it would bump me out of the seat for sure. I have seen a lot of comments on the last video about how these clutches and transmissions are known to be the best, which I imagine they aren't for what they cost. Alright, well, we'll know for sure no one's behind us. We might do a little brake testing on this gravel road. It's easy to slide out the rear, but they are brand new, super sticky brakes. Oh yeah. The brakes took a bit of getting used to. The weight is just so far forward on this bike, but ultimately I think it's plenty safe for a commuter. Obviously there's no driver's aids of any kind, no ABS, nothing like that, but it doesn't accelerate fast enough to break traction. So here I'm even holding the front brake, trying to do a burnout in first gear, and I'm just overpowering the brake. I was getting so much grip, but it was uphill. All right, we can go in. And I could have braked a lot harder than that too. All right, let's see what our top speed is going uphill on pavement. This hill is a lot steeper than it looks on camera, and I did manage to reach 52 miles an hour in fourth gear, about 2,000 RPMs from redline. So if your commute had a lot of hills where you had to go 60, this really wouldn't work, but it seems like a pretty extreme thing to need to do, so for most people it's probably just fine. This bike is really quite loud, to be honest. The reason I really wanted this motorcycle is that I wanted something I could ride straight from my house or the garage into the mountains and just have a good rip around after work. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do today. Let's see if we can't get this thing to cook a second gear wheelie. It just has no power, and it's actually a pretty heavy machine, and the weight is very much forward. So you kind of have to slam on the back to get it to come up at all. So embarrassing. Oh my god. Oh, that was ice. I mean, on the ice, something that everyone who knows motorcycles that have seen this bike and know what I paid for it, they're always surprised with the tires because they're actually pretty sticky, pretty good rubber. Whoa. So I'm going slow just out of precaution, not because I have to. But yeah, it is icy to the max. I guess I was hoping that it would just be like powder sprinkles over here. And it's just straight up very icy. So this is a bad idea. I was hoping it would go straight from dirt to snow, but ice is the least fun thing to use on a dirt bike. You can tell I'm just sliding around like crazy. Sometimes around this time of year, the road will go straight from dirt to the stuff you see on the side of the road here, which is just some hard crust snow on some frozen dirt, which is actually really fun to ride in. But that wasn't the case today, so we'll have to come back another time and try this out. So let's go back on the pavement and see what the official top speed of this bike is before we drive it home. Did you see that? This is the biggest problem with this bike, which is why I put the camera down here. You're about to see a really dramatic example of the weight being so far forward and the rear suspension just not being adequate. It just jumps completely off the road. And this is something that would be hard to fix. Like, of course you could upgrade the rear shock, but you're never gonna fix the weight balance problem, which is ultimately the biggest problem. I think this shock would be fine if the weight distribution was more even, but that's just something you're not gonna be able to fix. And given it's a really cheap bike, we can't be comparing it to like bikes that are 12 times as expensive, but it is an important thing to take note of. And obviously if you're a really serious rider, you're gonna want a more serious bike. And this bike is a substantial bang for your buck, especially if you're just learning and you're okay with wrenching and maintaining a vehicle. But man, sometimes it does scare you a bit because you lose that rear contact patch, you can't slow down as fast, and you obviously can't steer when your rear tire is completely in the air. Awesome. Yeah, I am really impressed with this thing. I just made this video at the wrong time of the year. I'll have to come up here because going through this stuff right here, this is what I was hoping for. That's no problem at all, especially with tires like this. So what we know for sure is that the bike works pretty dang well out of the box with no upgrades. The wheels are a little heavy and weak, but man, I mean, for what you get and what the price is, the only real question, and it is a big fat question mark, is will this bike hold up over time? So that's going to be my next big video on this, so subscribe. I'll see like what it feels like after 1,000 miles or something, probably in the spring. My riding season here is pretty short. It was super easy to make road legal, and since the bike is so cheap, it costs like $100. I really like the sense of peace of riding a motorcycle legally on the road. It's kind of fun. Always used to stress me out a little bit, but where else are you going to practice your wheelies, right? Now that we're back on the flat straights, let's do some top speed runs. All right, easy 65 downhill. That was 60 slightly uphill. Safe to say the top speed is 60 miles an hour. 180-pound rider on it. And then at the very end of our ride, we found a really long, slightly uphill road, and we hit 60 miles an hour actually. So you're not going to be passing anyone on the highway with this bike, especially uphill, but it will maintain most speed limits. Another thing that just blew me away, as you guys probably saw in the last video, I hadn't screwed in my brake light all the way, and it actually fell off and ripped one of the cords straight out of the circuit board on the inside of the light, so I couldn't resolder it. I sent the X-Pro customer support an email. They just asked for my order number, and then without asking me for payment or shipping address or anything, they just sent me a new taillight for free. And it only took a couple days. I don't think the big brands would have been that easy to work with, so I was really shocked and really thankful because I thought getting parts for this bike was going to be a disaster, to be honest. Well, that's my final thoughts for this video. I bought the cheapest and most expensive dual sport bike from Walmart.com as well, so we got that video coming up soon, so make sure that you are subscribed. That on Spotify, that actually goes pretty hard.